let me go on to a question that came up later in the book. Just how voidy is the void of space? So it looks pretty empty out there between galaxies, just a lot of black, it seems anyway. If you stepped into intergalactic space, by the way, what might happen to you?
You would die.
Yep. But you might see stuff, and this is the list. Well, I had never heard of any of these things. Dwarf galaxies, runaway stars, faint blue galaxies, hot clouds that emit X-rays. Let me just ask you about some of them. What is a dwarf galaxy?
It's a little galaxy.
Well, that I figured.
Didn't we go through this already? Our words mean what they say?
But
we're past that already.
There are galaxies that you see, the ones the Magellan saw, smudges in the sky. Those are huge things.
No, well, they're dwarf galaxies.
Those are dwarf galaxies?
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
Oh, yeah, they're like 100th the size of our galaxy.
So how many dwarf...
They far outnumber big galaxies.
They do.
Yeah, so maybe we shouldn't be calling them dwarfs, because they're the common size galaxy. We should just be called giants, perhaps.
Giants galaxy.
And they call them regular.
Right?
That's how that works, right?
What is the difference?
Right?
How many stars are in a galaxy?
Our galaxy has several 100 billion stars.
And in a dwarf galaxy?
At most, 1 billion, but more typically hundreds of millions. These are small numbers compared to full-up red-blooded galaxies. So tiny are dwarf galaxies, and we tend to find them in the vicinity of big galaxies, but you know what happens? They orbit the big galaxy, but their orbits are not stable, and they do a death spiral in, and they get eaten by the larger galaxy. And we have a term for that. It's called galactic cannibalism. In fact, there are streams of stars that we see in our own galaxy that have the same trajectory as one another through the stellar system that is the Milky Way. So and you follow it, and it comes back out and back in again. And so this is evidence that this was once a fleshy but dwarfy galaxy that we ate, ripped apart. And now the stars are just trying to have the last bastions of a memory of what they once were, because they're getting stretched apart by what we call the tidal forces of our galaxy.
Does the Milky Way have dwarfs?
Yeah, the first science essay I ever wrote was called "The Galaxy and the Seven Dwarfs," because at the time the Milky Way had 7 dwarf galaxies in orbit around it. And then, but dwarf galaxies are very small; they're hard to detect. And since then, we've discovered, a couple dozen more. So we might be up above 22 dozen dwarf galaxies in our vicinity, basically nearby. So the point, getting back to the void, is you look out in the void and say there's nothing there. Well, what are you invoking to declare that it's a void? Is it your eyes? Well, let's bring in a telescope. Are you using visible light? Is that a visible light telescope? Bring in an X-ray telescope, an infrared telescope. Bring in the spate of senses that science has developed that transcend the 5 native senses we have through our human physiology. And that power enables us to decode the universe not as our senses receive them, but as our detectors